Inside this video topic, we'll see and discuss an important concept, and that is how to render our post informations inside edit post model. Let's go back to browser. So far inside this headless application, we have created our post list layout, our add post with functions, and finally we are looking for edit post model. So inside last video, whenever, let's inspect first. Go to console tab. So whenever if I click on this 38 number ID, click on edit button. So we can see that inside this console tab, here we have the complete object which contains all the informations on the basis of post ID equals to 38. So in this video, we'll discuss the concept that how to render our informations like post existing informations inside this edit post model so that whenever if I want to update on any information, simply click on update button. With API call, we can update any informations. So this interesting concept about render our existing informations inside all these form input fields we'll discuss inside this video topic. Before going further, I only request you to please hit the like button to give us a thumbs up to this interesting course, and please do subscribe so that I will be creating such type of amazing and interesting courses for you. Now, next after this, let's go back to project editor. Then I will go into this component file called editPostModel.jsx file. And inside last video, we had used the concept of use effect. And inside this use effect, in the dependency of post ID, this function we have called, and this function basically getting the existing post informations. So what we can do, instead of console.log, remember, inside this component file also we have multiple state variables. For example, for title, here we have title, category, editor content, featured image, and many more. So what we can do, after getting our existing post data, let's set state variables. So here simply set post title, or I think set title, and inside this API data dot title dot rendered. Now, if I go to our console tab, let's go first inside this console tab. And here, if I open, for example, let's close this one, click on 38. So we can see that here we have the entire object. So inside this entire object, if I want to get the title value, so first we have to go inside this title, and inside this title, here we have an object, and inside this object, here we have property called rendered. So what we can do inside this title, then we have to go and call this rendered. Now next, let's say set category. So here API data dot, so to get the category, if I go and check where is the categories, so here we can see categories, and inside these categories, look at the first value. Here we have the category ID. So what we can do, let's copy first the key name. So it is categories. So API data dot categories dot the first index value. Now next, let's say set editor content. So this is something API data dot, if I want to get the content, post content, so we have to go inside this content key and rendered. So here, let's say API data dot content dot rendered. So for the time being, if I save only these three changes, let's go here, and if I open into a duplicate tab, click on 37 number ID, and okay, it is not rendering. And why it is not rendering the value of, let's go and check here, something called title. So title, set title, so it seems all things are okay, but why it is not working? And this is because API data D is capital. So let's copy, paste here, and if I go, let's reload one more time. So let's say 35 number ID, click on edit button. So we can see that our post title, post category, and post content. Now in the same pattern, I want to get this featured image as well as status. So to get the status, if I go, so inside this object, we can see one more key called status. So what we can do here, let's go inside this function to set status. So set status will be the function API data dot status. Save these changes. Now to get the media ID, So here media ID equals to, let's say, let featured image media ID equals to API data dot, and here we have, if I search called media ID. So for example, this post 1005, no image available, but if I click on this 37 number ID and it has not returned, so I think let's first, I'll go and comment this line. So let's say console.log, and if I type API data, save these changes. So now you can see that here, click on this post 1003, click on edit button. And here, if I go, now we can see that inside featured media, it contains a media ID. So what we can do, first we have to get the media ID. We have to call one more API, like by the help of that API endpoint, by the help of this ID, we get our featured image URL. So simply, I'll copy this key. So here, what we can do, let featured media ID equals to API data dot featured media. Now, after getting media ID, we have to call one more API, and that API is going to return the source URL or the featured media image URL. So here, what we can do, let's say fetch WordPress post media URL, and here simply we have to pass our media ID. Let's copy this function name, and here let's say get media URL. And then here, let's say const function name. This function is going to take the media ID, arrow function. Now inside this function, let's say try block, and here catch block, error. So let's go inside first inside this catch block. So console.log error, and also it will contain a finally block, set display loader false here, and before this try block, let's say set display loader equals to true. And one more thing, this loader concept also we have to do with this method as well. So before this try block, let's say set display loader equals to true. Now here, what we can see, like after getting media ID, we have passed inside this function, and this function is going to fetch, let's say const API response equals to, wait, let's use fetch method, and also before that, let's make async function block. Let's go inside our API JSON documentation, and if I search for, let's say /wp /v2 /media now we can see that here we have an API endpoint, like we have to hit using get request type, and additionally we have to pass the media ID. Next, after this, let's go back to project editor. So, and one more thing, I'll copy the base URL, and here inside this fetch, let's use backtick symbol, our base URL, then media, and after media we have to pass media ID. So $$ curly pairs, and here we have media ID, and inside the second argument, let's say method, I will use get request type inside headers, not head tag, it will headers, and here let's say authorization basic keyword concatenate with base64 values of admin and admin. Now next, let's say const API data equals to await API response dot JSON. And once we get API data, so for the time being, let's say console.log API data, save these changes. So if I go and let's reload, click on this, and before click, if I go into our console tab, so I'm clicking over this 37 number ID, click on edit button, and now we can see that it is containing the post information on the basis of 37 number ID. And here inside the second object, if I click on this file, So it is logging the informations of this console.log, and this console.log is logging the informations of media. So let's go inside this console tab. So inside the second object of this response, now we can see that here we have a key called source URL, and this source URL is nothing. It is containing the image URL on the base of ID. So what we can do after getting the source URL, let's go here. So image URL will be API data dot source URL. So once we get source URL, so automatically here we have like a state variable. So let's copy that, and then I will go here and simply let's say set default featured image URL, and here API data dot source URL. So successfully, if I save these changes, let's go back to browser. If I reload, click on this 35 number ID, we're gonna add delete button, and now we can see that here we have the informations of that post like title, category, content, featured image, as well as the status value. And in case if suppose we don't have any image, click on this 1005, click on add delete button, and now we can see that okay, it is coming as a broken image. So in that case, what we can do, let's say just copy, go inside this finally block, not inside this finally block, inside this, like we don't have any media ID, so I will copy. Let's put a condition here that if media ID greater than 0, then here we'll have some media URL. Otherwise, inside this else block, let's say set default feature image URL, and we have to pass our default URL will be something like this. So I'll just copy and put here. So if I save these changes, let's go back to browser. Let's reload. Click on this, for example, this 38 number ID, click on add delete button. And now we can see that this time here we have the default image. Now let's click one more time over this 1002, click on add delete button. And now we can see that here we have the title, a category, content, image, and the status value. And one more thing, if I go, let's click on this cancel button. So if I go first inside this WordPress panel, click on post. And here, for example, if I click on this 101, or for example, it's a laptop one, click on add delete button. So we can see that this post is containing lots of data. So here, if I go and click, for example, let's say laptop one, click on add delete button. So we can see that the width, or we may say like height of this model now is overlapped with this layout. So what we can do, either we can put a maximum height of this editor so that if suppose the content exceeds, automatically a scroll bar will appear over this content. So what we can do, if I go and inspect here, let's open something like this. So if I inspect here, so here we can see that here we have some classes called ck-content and much more. So what I will do, simply I will copy, let's say ck editor inline. So this is the class I will copy, or any class you can copy here, but I will copy this one. Let's go here. I will open styles.css from assets folder, and keep in mind that this file is loading inside our entire application. So what we can do, this is our class, and inside this class I will put a max height equals to, let's say, 120 pixel. If I save these changes, let's go here. Now here, let's click on this laptop one again, click on add delete button, and now we can see that this time the area or the model is much better in comparison of previous one. So here we have the detailed informations of that post like title, category, content, featured image, as well as status. Now in the next video, we'll work on the most important section, like once we click on update button, how to update the existing informations on the basis of post ID. So friends, I hope that this video also was very important and informative. So please give us a thumbs up to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Now let's meet to our next amazing video. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.